Psalm 72. This is a royal psalm. It would have been prayed at the start of a king's reign, a prayer of blessing on their reign, on their kingdom. And it's a bit confusing because at the start it says of Solomon, but then in verse 20 it says of David, son of Jesse. So is this a prayer of Solomon? Is it a prayer of David? Well, the truth is no, we don't know definitively, but that word of can mean to or for. So it could be to or for Solomon. So the way I read this is that it's a prayer of David of blessing on his son Solomon as he's about to start his reign, about to start his kingship. And so there are two ways I really want to pray this psalm. The first is to pray it over my children and over the children of our church. I'll explain more about that in a moment. But then also to pray it as a prayer of blessing on Jesus' kingdom, that his kingdom would come in all these different ways that the psalm gives us, shows us that his kingdom is wanting to come on earth as in heaven. And verses 1 and 2 begin with this theme of justice. Endow the king with your justice, O God, the royal son with your righteousness. May he judge your people in righteousness, your afflicted ones with justice. We're reminded in those verses, God's kingdom is a kingdom of justice. Jesus cares about justice. Jesus will come to judge. And so I want to pray for justice to be done now, for where we've seen injustices exposed by the Black Lives Matters movement. We want to see justice. Where we've seen inequalities exposed by coronavirus, I want to pray for God's kingdom of justice to come now. Where I see injustice in my own heart, in my own life, I want to pray that God would put me on the right side of his judgment now. Then the next thing I want to pray is about prosperity. Verse 3, may the mountains bring prosperity to the people, the hills the fruit of righteousness. I want to pray for God's kingdom of prosperity to come now in our communities where there is a lot of economic uncertainty and people already are feeling the effects on them. I want to pray for his prosperity, that his hand of prosperity and provision and love will be revealed in their lives, in their livelihoods. But also to pray almost more fundamentally, as it says in that verse 3, for the fruit of righteousness to be pursued above everything else, that they would recognize, that people would recognize that as the ultimate prosperity, the fruit of righteousness. That actually God's kingdom of prosperity would come in all of its fullness, all the different ways that we understand that. I want to pray verse 4. May he defend the afflicted among the people, save the children of the needy. Would Jesus' kingdom of care and protection and deliverance and help come? Who are the needy among us? Maybe it's a chance to pray for God's kingdom of saving help to come among the refugees among us, the homeless among us, those who are struggling. And I could go on. I want to pray verses 8 to 11. Those verses lead me to pray for the leaders in our world. Verse 11, may all kings bow down to him and all nations serve him. I want to pray that our global politics would be marked by, infiltrated by his kingdom values, that he would turn the hearts of our politicians, of our government, that they would pursue what he pursues, that they would pursue the values of his kingdom: love, peace, joy, justice, goodness, mercy, purity, that those would become the guiding lights of our global politics. I could go on. I want to pray verse 16, may corn abound throughout the land, on the tops of the hills may it sway, may the crops flourish like Lebanon and thrive like the grass of the field. It leads me to pray for God's kingdom of renewal and blessing to come on our creation, on his creation. We desperately need it, don't we? We need his hand of renewal and help and repentance as well, to lead us in repentance in the way that his creation is under threat. We need to see various trends, don't we, reverse in terms of global warming and population declines of different species. Father, would you bring the renewing presence of your kingdom in your creation? But I also want to pray this psalm for my children and for the children of this church. And I suppose with that same heart that I imagine David having as he prays this prayer. I imagine him praying for Solomon and thanking God that he's put his son in this position of influence, and wanting to pray, first of all, that God would bless them with his character, with all that they need to lead well. And I want to pray for our children, the children of our church, that God would bless them with godly character and hearts hungry to pursue the values of his kingdom. But then that he'd put them in positions of influence. I want to pray that he would put many of the children in our church in positions of influence. We all influence in different ways, don't we? but to pray that God would really extend his kingdom through all the different ways that he's going to be at work through their lives, that he would put people in the children of our congregation in positions of influence in different spheres of maybe health or government or business or politics or just in community life, and that we see God's kingdom coming through them. So I want to be praying in anticipation for whatever it is God has got in store for our kids, to pray for his kingdom to come, his will to be done on earth as in heaven. So that's how I'm praying Psalm 72. Have a read and pray. God bless. I'll see you soon.